Welcome to Jerez. Round 4 of the MotoGP World Championship in 2019 is done. We're here for After the Flag. In today's show, we talk about Marc Marquez as he dominates once more here in his homeland. We talk about, of course, Alex Rins and Maverick Vinales also on the podium, poor old Fabio Quartararo, and we look back at our predictions made from yesterday as well. I'm Steve Day, Matt Birt and Simon Crafar here. Join me. Well, he's done it again. He may not be the king of Cota, Matt, and he's referenced this, and we'll talk about this a lot more, but he certainly is the king of Spain. Fantastic effort from him. From the moment he took the lead into turn 1, there was no going back. No one touched him. A lead from start to finish.
Yeah, he rode the picture-perfect race, didn't he, today, Steve? He knew that to execute Plan A perfectly, he had to get the whole shot, which he did, got into first corner. He said after the race, he knew for those first 10 laps on new tyres, it was going to be a group race. What he did know was the fact that Morbidelli and Quartararo were those two guys behind him, so he knew that none of his big championship rivals were making any significant progress forward. That kind of put him in a comfort zone, if you can ever be in a comfort zone in MotoGP. And then from lap 10 onwards, he really dropped the hammer. That's a big question, those guys behind him. They couldn't go with him. It was exhibition stuff, really, from Marc.
Simon, he's sort of sent a big message out, and I think he's made that quite clear. And in his press conference then, there's a bit of an edge to Marc's comments. He's almost saying, yeah, OK, I gave you guys a little bit of hope over in Austin, but I just want to prove to everyone who's boss here.
Yeah, at the same time, like in the Parc Ferme, he mentioned that it was like hard mentally after the mistake in Cota to, you know, ride fast, keep the boys at bay and not make a mistake, because he can't afford 2 in a row. He knows that. And you know how your mind plays games on you. You're out there pushing hard, and it sounds like they've fixed a problem that may have caused it at Cota, but it sounded like it was still worrying him in the back of his mind, you know, not wanting to make another mistake.
I mean, coming up the hill into turn 1, guys, I think everybody was thinking if there's going to be a race here, someone's going to have to get out front. Now, it looked like Dovizioso might be that guy, starting behind Quartararo, but he went into turn 1, just got it slightly wrong.
Yeah, well, the whole shot device works on the Ducati clearly, doesn't it? Because he got a lightning start, didn't he, from row 2 with Andrea Dovizioso. And you're right, Steve, it looked like he was in position A as far as he was concerned. He wanted to pick off the 2 Petronas Yamahas early and get in that fight with Marc, but then he just ran wide, a little bit of a mistake at the first corner. He couldn't turn in.
Because Marc was there and he went to turn and couldn't, and then ended up running wide.
And then he really, really struggled to get back into the race from that point onwards. I mean, Quartararo and Morbidelli rode absolutely brilliantly, and then we saw late on Andrea Dovizioso, he couldn't fight against Maverick Vinales. I mean, those 3 points would have actually kept Andrea top of the championship. You know, I think it's pretty ominous already for these guys. I mean, we're only 4 races deep into the championship, but, you know, Marc's had that DNF in Austin, and he's still sitting pretty 1 point clear at the top of the championship. It's already looking pretty ominous as far as I'm concerned.
The only person who seemed in the early stages that might be able to bring some sort of challenge to Marc was Franco Morbidelli. An excellent first few laps, and he was obviously naturally, as the Yamaha always is, really quick, stable through the fast corners, but under braking on an acceleration, he just couldn't get close enough to pounce.
Yeah, you're right. Early stages, especially through that double right, which are the really fast ones before the last turn, you saw him eke up on the back of Marquez. Marquez, that was later in the race for Valentino. Eke up on the back of Marquez, but Marc was better on the brakes into the last turn, wasn't he? And out of it, and then the gap had opened back up again. It was just like a seesaw, the 2 different styles of bikes.
We have to obviously then talk about the fact that Franco started to move back. He dropped like a stone. It's a problem that's actually happened for him and Yamaha quite regularly so far this year. But fabulous Fabio, with that brilliant pole position time yesterday, the youngest ever rider to take pole position, he went into 2nd place. And he bolted away from the rest of the pack, and we thought, hello, he's on for a podium here.
Well, he was making it look as easy as Marc was at the front of the race. Once he'd disposed of Franco, I think already it was close to 1.5 seconds clear. It was a real safe and secure 2nd place. I think pretty much as we said that, the old commentary curse strikes yet again. We did it to Marquez, mate, last time out in Austin. We've done it to Quartararo today, but as soon as we said how easy it was making it look and how secure he looked in that 2nd place, that problem with the gear shift, the stuck in 3rd gear, I mean, so cruel for Fabio Quartararo. I mean, the perfect demonstration. I mean, you talk about the highs and lows of racing in the space of 24 hours, contrasting emotions, you know, tears of despair. My heart sank for Fabio, but what he can take from this weekend, guys, is the fact that he was on the money. He is fast. There are so many positives for him to draw upon. Next time out in France, he's going to be right there again. Can't wait.
I agree. Simon?
I felt so sorry for him, you know, but I stood right by him when he came in, and he was like, I hesitate to say screaming, but he was going, no, and he was crying, and guys, you know, when I felt so sorry for him, you know, it was one thing, I feel sorry for Fabio, but when I realised why he was so upset, that your first podium here, he was on target for it, you know, he gapped the guys behind and he was hanging on to Mark. Yeah. He was on target for his first ever podium, and that first ever podium is like the holy grail in this class. For anyone who hasn't got one, you know, it's super important, and to believe you have it within your grasp and then get it taken away is so cruel. I actually teared up watching him crying. I feel so sorry.
I hope you're okay.
Well, mate, I got mine and I know what it was like. He's going to get his. And to miss out on it,
in that fashion as well, I mean, just so cruel.
It is definitely coming, there's no doubt about it. We've got to talk about the guy in second. Again, a really poor qualifying for Alex Rins, and boy, oh boy, did he pay for it. But caps off to him. A great performance to come through from 9th into 2nd, and he's going to go into Le Mans 1 point down on Marquez.
Two guys have got to sort their qualifying out today. Alex Rins, one of them, Steve, 3rd row. You give yourself so much work to do. Absolutely brilliant ride by Alex to come through from 9th to 2nd, but you know, clearly he had the pace to potentially threaten Mark. Mark was just unchallenged throughout the entire race from 10 laps onwards. Alex could have asked some big questions of him, but you can't do it from 9th. And Rossi as well, Valentino 13th. You know, his pace in the second half of the races was as quick as the podium guys, but what can you do from 13th when the competition is so tight and so tough? So Rins and Rossi in FP3 and Q1 or whatever they're in, they've got to get themselves sorted out, because you can't keep digging deep with the old shovel on a Sunday afternoon.
Well, the other reason I think Rins's ride was so impressive, you know, I guessed he'd come through to podium, but to come through to 2nd, and so, like, this track is so difficult to pass, you know, and for him to come through the pack like that and be able to outbrake people where it's so easy to lose the front, and he was as fast as Mark at the end of the race, wasn't he, you know?
But the only thing is, I'm just going to throw this in here. Yes, he was as fast as Mark in the end, but I suppose we're never going to know whether Mark had anything extra.
Dead right.
He wasn't actually challenged.
But
that's true.
But that's what we want to see, you know, is someone push Mark. And Rins can do it if he gets the qualifying, you know.
Yeah, and I think thankfully what we've seen, everybody was talking big pre-season that Rins and Suzuki could this year, after such a strong finish to last year, could they take the next step and emerge as genuine championship contenders? Well, I think over these last couple of weeks, Austin and Jerez, we've had that answer pretty emphatically. They are there, and they're there to stay in the championship hunt.
Yep. You just mentioned Valentino Rossi. We might as well just draw upon that. I mean, he got stuck behind Jack Miller for way too long. I mean, that was basically, I'm not saying he would have come through to the podium, but it definitely cost him. I mean,
well, I think I was thinking at the time when I saw Valentino, Jack battling away, I was thinking, this is what 2019 MotoGP is about. Some of the best guys in the world, if it's not their day, they're battling in what they were battling in for 9th then. They were in 10th, you know, and it's an amazing level of riders and machinery, you know. That's what I took from that. And while we're there, in that group was Aleix Espargaro, who I think stepped up today. I just wanted to say shout out to Aleix. It was a pretty good ride. He was doing 38th at the end of the race, ahead of his brother on the KTM.
It's fine margins, isn't it? You know, Rossi just missed out at the end of FP3. I mean, he did that 37.4 or whatever it was. We thought, how on earth is that not going to be good enough to get inside the top 10? And then he was a bit unlucky as well in Q1. So had the cards fallen slightly differently this weekend for Rossi, I think he would have been right in there. But yet again, he's done a great salvage job. 13th to 6th place, a decent haul of points, but it just shows at this level, with MotoGP as tight as it is now, FP3, Q1 in particular, they're so important. They can make or break your weekend.
They said all along, didn't they, Yamaha, this was a pivotal race for them to kind of see where they were at. At one point in this race, they were 2nd, 3rd and 4th, with, of course, Franco and Fabio in there. Saving the blushes, I suppose, and good news at last for Maverick Vinales, who finally makes it through to the podium. And all because, Simon, he's finally made a good start and managed to get aggressive in the first few laps.
Yeah, he was clearly so happy, wasn't he, you know, that he'd got a podium. And I'm really happy for him, you know. It wasn't going well, was it? And he's finally broken that, you know, back on the podium. I just saw him again now, the team having a bit of a celebration, and he's super happy with his start. I think finally getting a good start and hanging on to it is going to give him some, he's going to have a good couple of weeks to Le Mans, be up, I can finally do it, and I wouldn't be surprised if he can do it from now on.
I mean, he's good in Le Mans as well, isn't he? So, I mean, that's...
Le Mans is one of his favourite
Yeah.
tracks, Steve. Yeah, we know the Yamaha works well there. What impressed me most today about Maverick was, the start was fantastic, but boy, was he under some serious pressure from Andrea Dovizioso at the end of that race. Maverick on the last lap, a time of the race normally when the Yamahas run out of a bit of grip, to set his fastest lap on the last lap just shows, one, how confident and comfortable Maverick was on that last lap with his tyres. There is still work to do. They were behind Honda, they were behind Suzuki, but Vinales got himself back in the game. And I think today, my overriding emotion from him was relief more than anything. Not just happiness, it was relief that he's back in the game.
Can I just throw something in there about the Yamaha thing that is still a little strange, you know? I think if Fabio's bike hadn't broken, it would have been another young guy coming up from Moto2 beating the factory Yamahas, like Zarco's done the last 2 years, which is still strange to me, you know, like why the factory guys can't be
Yeah, and it would have been interesting as well to have seen how Fabio handled that deterioration in grip in those last laps as well, because clearly we could see, I think Morbidelli, he just dropped out of that lead group just because of a lack of experience from the Yamaha.
Well, he pushed so hard at the start to try and keep with Mark.
Yeah, and of course he's still not exactly in that zone where he knows...
Fabio hadn't started dropping, had he? He was going...
No,
still
not at
going.
that point. Not at that point.
Yeah,
No.
well, I mean, like, you know, just it would have been interesting to see how if he could have maintained that pace, because clearly Franco couldn't.
Yeah.
Okay, the two factory Ducatis were 4th and 5th. Dovizioso, in a way, I think he'll come away from here pretty happy with that. He's still in contention, so he'll go to Le Mans full of confidence. Petrucci, a top 5, not so bad. Rossi 6, we've covered that. Some disappointing rides a bit further back. Cal Crutchlow, we were expecting to maybe at least potentially fight for a podium here today, and didn't really talk about him that much.
Yeah, well, I think there was Crutchlow for me was a disappointment. Jorge Lorenzo. Now, I don't know, without speaking to those guys, whether they were the only two guys in the race today that chose the medium rear tyre. Now, whether that was a factor or not,
possibly.
Crutchlow did finish quite a long way ahead of Jorge Lorenzo. Now, I had a quick chance with some of the HRC guys afterwards and said, look, was there any specific issue that Jorge had, why he was so off the pace? And they said, kind of just shrugged their shoulders and said, not really. Hard to fathom why he was so far back. I mean, 5 seconds behind the test rider, Stefan Bradl, on a track that he loves. You know, these were great conditions for Lorenzo. Lots of grip, hot conditions. Really don't know why he struggled so much. I mean, back to the drawing board. I mean, the test here for me this week's crucial for him. He needs time on that Honda without the pressure, the time constraints of practice. The test is like gold for Lorenzo because he was nowhere.
The Lorenzo thing, I have no idea, and it was too big a gap behind to put down to, you know what I'm saying. I really don't know.
Yeah.
But Carl, again, I'd put it in the same basket as Jack and Rossi, is that if you're not really on form this year, you know, 10th, there's still really good riders down in 10th, you know, that are going to give you a hard time. So.
Well, Nakagami, his teammate, was in the top 10 again. A good result for him. We're going to talk a bit before we leave about the test that's actually happening here. But before that, let's have a look and see what we said. What were our predictions here in Jerez yesterday? Okay, my predictions for the Spanish Grand Prix, based on his rhythm on the hard tyre, I just cannot see past Marc Marquez winning. Second and third has been really tough to decide on, but I'm going to go for Andrea Dovizioso second and Alex Rins third.
Well, he's no longer the king of COTA, but I'm going for Marc Marquez to reign in Spain. I think he's going to do the business again. Andrea Dovizioso, I think he's going to be second. Should have been second in the race last year. And I'm going to have a bit of patriotic predictions. Cal Crutchlow for me to come from the second row into third place. So Marquez, Dovizioso, Cal Crutchlow. I think it's going to be Viva España tomorrow.
For the race, I'd pick Marc Marquez for the win. Like in Austin, only Marc can stop himself from winning, I think. Second, that's really tricky because on paper, Maverick Vinales is really fast. But Dovi is solid as a rock, you know, going on past. So I'm going for Dovizioso for second. And third, my heart wants to say Fabio Quartararo. But again, my head says pick Rins. So I'm going Alex Rins for third.
Okay, well, we all got the race winner absolutely spot on. No surprise there. We did say Rins, eh? Come on. I mean, but
Rins for
unfortunately not in the
podium.
same position.
There should be half a point for getting so close.
Cal's let you down.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to
All
say
right.
if Cal had chosen the hard rear tyre, he'd been right there with Marquez. I'd been bang on the money.
Absolutely. Well, we'll have to see how we get on next time. I think what that does highlight is we were all wrong about Dovizioso. I mean, we expected him to be a lot stronger.
Yeah, I mean, he almost got Maverick at the end. I mean, it was only because Maverick produced that brilliant final lap. But I think, as you mentioned, Steve, earlier on, Ducati have never been strong in Jerez. Andrea Dovizioso has never been strong here, really. So to get away with a fourth place, fourth in Austin on one of his bogey tracks, and the podium in Argentina, it bodes well for Ducati and Dovizioso's challenge, because they're going to come into a phase of the season very soon where their bike works a treat. Mugello, Barcelona, Assen. That's when you can really see Dovizioso probably come on strong. So to keep himself in the mix with some top 4 results in these last 3, looks really good for Ducati.
Key test here, Simon, in Jerez. As we know, Honda always look to improve. It looks like Mark's going to get a go on Stefan's skin with the carbon on and things like that. They're always looking to try and move the goalposts. Suzuki, it sounds like they've got a swing arm attachment, tyre cooling device to test here and see how that gets on. But surely we're all in agreement. Maybe we're not. Maybe you'll be able to tell me that Yamaha are the team that we're all really interested to see what they bring, because something's got to change if they're going to actually launch themselves into this championship. Because at the moment, despite Rossi doing well in 6th and 9 points behind overall, it's looking like it's Honda, Ducati, Suzuki.
I'm not holding my breath. I've been holding my breath for a year, you know, for Yamaha, almost a year, to make a jump, a real clear jump. Yes, they've improved from last year, but no, I don't expect it just to pop up at this test, you know, I really don't.
No, there's going to be no quick fix, no magic one for Yamaha. And of course, no other factory sleeping as well. At every step that Yamaha take, well, Honda, Ducati and Suzuki are just as capable of doing that as well. I was fortunate enough to speak to Marquez after the race, and he said he sat down with the engineers this weekend. He'd seen the testing list, and he was like, guys, it's only a one-day test. We're not here the whole week. So Honda, I've got a truck full of new parts as well.
And you know what? The riders are tired. You know, the day after a race weekend, you've only got about half a day's steam of good, productive testing, you know, before you go, oh, I've had enough, really.
Well, guys, I think that's all for now. The sun is shining, and I've heard the Cerveza is very good down the road. That's it here from us in Jerez for round 4. Marc Marquez is back in charge of the championship, but there are 3 points separating 3 riders. Thank you very much for joining us here. We will see you over in France at the Bugatti circuit in Le Mans. Can't change up, you can't change gear.
What has happened to Fabio Quartararo? What a nightmare!
And that changed everything, because Rins has now gone through. The checkered flag is out, a momentous victory for 93. Alex Rins with another podium in 2nd, and Vinales returns to the podium for the first time since Australia.
Rabia 100% Marquez, ¿eh?